What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Overreactors Have More Fun. As always, I'm your host, Zach Cronin, and today we're going to be talking about the Dallas Mavericks and how any panic about their unexpected start is overblown. There have been more than a few teams that have underwhelmed to begin this NBA season. You have the Philadelphia 76ers, who look like a dump. The Milwaukee Bucks got off to a very rocky start. They have since began to turn it around, but they are still, at the time of this recording, one game under 500. The Minnesota Timberwolves are struggling as well to integrate Julius Randle. In short, it's been rocky seas for a handful of title contenders, including the Dallas Mavericks. Judging a team entirely based on their early season performance has the potential to leave any commentator or analyst looking silly a couple months later, depending on how staunch they are in their opinion, especially if you're going to claim that a team is cooked after only a dozen games or so. In most cases, nobody should be panicking before Christmas, especially if the team that they're focused on is only a few games above or below 500. The only exception to this rule right now is Philadelphia, because they really do look like ass. But even that has the potential to backfire because they still have Joel Embiid and they still have Tyrese Maxey. The point is this: now is not the time to freak out over the Dallas Mavericks. At the time of this recording, the Mavericks are 9-7. They're tied for 7th in the Western Conference. While they're still on pace to qualify for a spot in the play-in, it's a notable regression from the 50-win team that just went to the NBA Finals a few months ago. If they're to continue the rest of the season at this pace, they'll finish with a record of 46-36. Heading into the season, there really wasn't a reason to believe that Dallas would get off to a sluggish start. Yes, they lost Derrick Jones Jr., but they added Najee Marshall and, of course, acquired Klay Thompson through that sign and trade with the Golden State Warriors. It's not uncommon for teams to get off to a slow start when they're trying to integrate new players. We're seeing this in Minnesota with Julius Randle. We saw this a little bit with Philadelphia and Paul George before he went down with his injury. But the difference between Klay Thompson and those two guys is that players like Randle and PG are dynamic individual talents who require some time to get acclimated within the offense. Additionally, it requires the coaches and the rest of the players on that team to adjust the game plan to best maximize the requisite talents of that player. With Klay Thompson, Dallas isn't doing that. They're pretty much just replacing Tim Hardaway Jr. with Klay Thompson, who was mostly utilized as a catch and shoot guy last year. This, of course, was all speculative and theoretical. Things change once the season begins, and now that the season is here, there's something slightly off with the Dallas Mavericks. But what is it? Is it their offense? No. At the time of this recording, they're 5th in efficiency and averaging 116.1 points on 48.3% shooting. Side note, I am recording this on Sunday afternoon. Dallas plays Miami Sunday evening. All of the stats mentioned in this video are going to be heading into that game. I'm going to try to get this video posted Sunday night, if not Monday, but there will be a slight discrepancy in what I'm saying now and what the actual stats are. I just want it to be clear that I'm recording this following all of the games on Saturday and ahead of all of the games on Sunday. Well, if it's not their offense, it's got to be their defense, right?
No.
They're actually better this season than last season, surrendering just 111.8 points per 100 possessions, which is the league's 10th best mark. Another side note, all of the efficiency metrics are courtesy of Basketball Reference. This is important because NBA.com and Basketball Reference use different formulas. However, the difference between these two metrics isn't like 5 or 6 points. At the most, it's like a point and a half. If it's not their offense and it's not their defense, perhaps we can blame one specific player. Commentators have historically used Kyrie Irving as a scapegoat when it was unjustified, so perhaps we'll do the same in this case. That's wrong. Kyrie's averaging 24 points and 5 assists with an effective field goal percentage of 61.6. In fact, if you go down the roster, the majority of rotation players are contributing at an impactful level. We have Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford combining to score more than 20 points a game on 70% shooting with 2.7 blocks. Klay Thompson is shooting 36% from 3. Najee Marshall is limiting opponents to 32.8% shooting from downtown. And PJ Washington is averaging 2.5 steals and 1.7 blocks per 100 possessions. There is, however, one player that I forgot to mention. I'm having a really difficult time remembering who it is. Luka Doncic. This is going to sound like a hot take. It's not. And I'm letting you know, I feel very icky about saying what I'm about to say. But Luka Doncic is playing some of the worst basketball of his career. I feel icky saying this because the numbers that he's posting are still preposterous. He's averaging 28.1 points, 7.6 rebounds, and 7.6 assists. We are, however, accustomed to Luka giving us 30 points, 9 rebounds, and 9 assists because that's what he's been doing over the last few seasons. His rebounds are on pace to be a career low. His free throw rate is also on pace to be a career low. Mind you, this is not free throws attempted per game, but how frequently he's getting to the free throw line relative to his field goal attempts. His assists are second lowest only to his rookie season, and his assist percentage is down considerably as well to 33.1%, whereas it's been in the low to mid 40s for every season except his first. The only area where Luka is maintaining his normal output is scoring. I understand I just threw a lot of numbers at you, but none of them are having a sizable impact on Dallas's sluggish start because they are overshadowed by one area that has been the most detrimental: Luka's efficiency. Luka Doncic is shooting uncharacteristically poorly from the field overall. He's at 43.5%, and from three, he's at 32.4%. Do you want to guess where those rank for his career? These percentages matter a lot because there is an enormous caveat when discussing Dallas's losses this season. Of the 7 games they've dropped thus far, 6 have been by single digits and 4 have been by just 1 possession. It's reasonable to think that the Mavericks would have 1, 2, or maybe even 3 more wins if Luka is just a percentage point or 2 more efficient, especially considering he's gotten the final shot in 2 of the 4 one-possession losses. And honestly, I don't know why his shots aren't falling in. I wish I had an answer for you guys, but I don't because it doesn't really make any sense. His shot selection is basically the same as his couple of previous seasons with the exception of shots attempted inside of 3 feet. And while he's taking a fewer percentage of shots inside of that zone, he's still shooting 79% on those attempts. His shots just aren't falling. I do think that injuries have had a non-zero impact. On the 21st, Shams Charania reported that Luka would be sidelined indefinitely with a wrist injury. He's set to be reevaluated this upcoming week, but there have been numerous instances throughout this early season where Luka has been spotted holding his hamstring or his knee or his balls, and this isn't something that is exactly new. Luka historically has struggled to play in upwards of 70 games. He's just a guy who is consistently banged up. Perhaps that all of these little nagging injuries are finally beginning to affect his play. Additionally, you consider the fact that he's been a professional basketball player for more than a decade. I mean, he was bound to experience a slump at some point. I mean, even Steph Curry, the greatest three-point shooter the league has ever seen, has left his skid mark on the court once or twice before. There's another area of Luka's game that's been getting a sizable amount of coverage, and that's his defense or lack thereof. This conversation re-entered the national spotlight after Luka surrendered the game-winning dunk to John Collins because he couldn't be bothered to see his man and the ball. It's undeniably a massive blunder for any player, let alone one of Doncic's caliber, and I really hope that the buffoonish nature of it was stressed to him in the film room, but Luka is still the same mid-defender that he's always been. I've always viewed Luka as a mostly mediocre defender with the potential to have above-average moments from time to time. I put Kyrie Irving in this category. I put Steph Curry in this category. I trust that Luka will get 1 to 2 steals per game, and it's ironic because he's averaging a career best in steals, but I would rather put my balls through a garlic press than have him guard Anthony Edwards or Shai Gilgeous-Alexander when the game is on the line. It's for that reason, however, that Dallas went out and made moves to bolster that end by bringing in someone like PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford. The numbers simply do not support Luka being this enormous liability for Dallas on defense. This season, they have a defensive rating of 107.4 with Luka on the court compared to 110.2 when he's off. This follows the trend that they set last season when the Mavericks boasted a defensive rating of 113.8 with Luka playing and one of 113.4 when he sat. Individually, in terms of defended field goal percentage, for the entirety of his career, Luka has allowed opponents to shoot anywhere from 47.8% from the field to 48.2%. Are those terrific numbers? Not by any means, but it illustrates how there hasn't been a drop off in his defense. There just hasn't been. Luka is a mid defender. He always has been, and he always will be. If you're a Dallas Mavericks fan, or perhaps even somebody within the organization, I believe that there are still plenty of reasons to be optimistic about this team moving forward. They will figure it out. They will get rolling at one point. In spite of Luka's poor shooting, the offense has been pretty good, albeit a little inconsistent, but pretty good nevertheless. Additionally, defensively, they've been terrific, and they've been able to lean on that throughout these first couple of weeks of the NBA season. If it weren't for them being so good on that end, things would be a lot scarier. But overall, there really isn't anything fundamentally wrong with this team. The last point I want to make is this. Luka Doncic is too talented of a player to stay in a prolonged slump. His percentages will normalize, and this whole ugly mess will just be a funny memory. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and close this video out. Thank you guys so very much for coming to hang out with me today. As always, everything I'm associated with is down in the description box below. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Subscribe to the channel. Leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it. Drop a comment as well. It really helps out with the algorithm. If you do any of those three things, you'll become my new favorite person. And with that, I will see y'all in the next one.